So too much.
We're now on live stream. My clock says 2 o'clock, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. Welcome everybody to Snowy Valleys Council ordinary meeting of the 18th of February 2021. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and pay respects to elders past and present. This meeting is live streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow Council debates and decisions. Members of the public participating in a meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snowy Valleys Council does not accept liabilities for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of the meeting. Any part of the meeting that's held in closed session will not be streamed. Please ensure mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted. In the event of an emergency at a council meeting, please evacuate the area using the nearest exit. If participating in the meeting from an alternative venue, please enact the evacuation plan of that location if required. Council is currently operating under temporary provisions of Section 447A of the Local Government Act, which allows for online meetings, and the provision of the Act takes precedence over any conflict with the adopted Snowy Valleys Council Code of Meeting Practice. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, do I have any apologies?
There's an apology from Councillor Isselman.
Thank you. Are you moving that way? Seconder? Councillor Lata. Accepting of Councillor Isselman's absence. All in favour, raise your hand. It's unanimous, thank you. Okay, declarations of interest. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Councillor Ham.
I have a pecuniary interest in 10.1 and I will remain in the room.
Thank you. Councillor Ham.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Ham, can you please indicate whether you will be voting as well for that item?
I will be voting.
Thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. Mover, Councillor Ham, Councillor Cross, thanks. Business arising from those minutes? Both of you have business arising. Councillor Ham?
I'd like to bring up 11.2, the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program, and why we're getting money and it stays what's there. To me, one of the local roads that is really, really concerning is the Elliott Way, and it is really causing a lot of stress throughout the southern region. And also it was interesting on the Tumbarumba trek just to find out how many people with Snowy Hydro and Transgrid were just really feeling the pain of not being able to use, the Elliott Way going through Cabramurra. I don't know if anyone was privy to information on the Tumba trek about what is happening in that arena.
Thank you, Councillor Ham. I'll direct that to the CEO and he can redirect it if he wishes. Also noting, is the Elliott Way a local road? CEO.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the road is a combination of a National Parks Road and a council road. The council road was open immediately after the fires, and we've received some funding to do some works on that recently, and we've applied for more funding to do works on that. The section in National Parks is owned and controlled by National Parks. They have had some significant land slips and have had to do some geotechnical investigations before doing the specifications to go out to tender for those works. We understand that those works will be notified about who was a successful tenderer soon, and those works will commence. They were delayed apparently due to the geotechnical studies having some difficulties about not being able to be done during the cold weather climate, and they had an additional wet weather event. Councillors raised the issue, advocacy, the Mayor, myself, all of you councillors at every opportunity we've had. I also sit state and the regional coordination group for Snowy 2.0. And at every one of those meetings, I have questioned National Parks and Wildlife Service about that road and the opening. We did have Mick Pettit there at the Tumba Trek on the weekend at the dinner and on the walk. And I know a number of councillors and staff caught up with Mick. And certainly I've had a number of conversations with Mick. And they have been trying to move on that project as quickly as possible. Some of the other councillors may have had conversations with Mick and may wish to add to that.
Councillor Wright.
Yeah, I spoke to Nick at length about it, and I must admit he was very good. I gave him a bit of a pasting about lack of communication to the community about where they're at and what they're doing, and he did admit that they probably didn't follow that up all that well. And he did say that he believes that it will still be finished before the end of May. The plan is to, once its contracts are let, they'll be into it straight away, and he's got confirmation from the contractors that they can get onto it pretty quickly. So I thought it was pretty good news, and he was very open and good to talk about it. I found him quite good, you know, especially since they didn't really do. I think the communication to our community was the biggest thing they missed out on, where they could have been better. Just let us know what's going on.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other councillors? Councillor Lada.
I'll just ask the CEOs, for the Mayor, whether we've received any advice about being successful for that tender, given the fact that we obviously control the other half of it.
Through the Mayor, Councillor Lada, we haven't received any notification yet. We have on our private works arm actually tendered for those 4 tenders for the National Park section of that road. We haven't received notification yet, but I hear that from National Parks that's imminent for that release. And I have also heard that there may be some additional tenders for extra sections on that road as well.
Would seem odd that he's telling Councillor Wright that the contractors can start straight away if they haven't. They've obviously decided. Doesn't sound like it's us.
I don't think he just said part of their discussions, and I guess with all the contractors, was you know, how soon they could get started and how soon to be finished. He didn't actually say that he'd let any contracts yet.
Thank you, councillors. Nothing further on that. Councillor Cross, you had a question?
Yes, I just wondered if there was any response at all from Blakely Miller.
CEO.
Through the Chair, Mr Mayor, Councillor Cross, we have had some discussions about setting up a meeting. Unfortunately, at this point, we haven't been able to get a time that works for both the foundation and for council, but we're continuing to work on that. They appear to be willing to meet with us, which is a great sign.
Well done. Thank you. Anything further from those minutes? Councillor Benjamin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to get an update on item number 11.5, the assessment for DA 2020/0247.
Mr Mayor, I may hand that one across to the Executive Director, Corporate and Community.
Thank you for your inquiry through you, Mr Mayor. The assessment, we have requested the further information from the applicant. To date, the application or that further information has not been forthcoming. We are awaiting it. In conversation with the applicant's land surveyor, he indicated that further information, the work involved in that further information was underway. So we expect to receive that further information in the coming weeks, and once received, we will prepare the assessment for discussion with council.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Thank you. Anything further? Okay, put the motion that we accept those minutes. All in favour? That's everyone. Thank you. Councillors, that takes us to 10.1, Governance and Financial Reports, ratification of meetings attended by councillors January 2021. 3 recommendations there. Do I have a mover? Councillor Larder, seconder. Councillor Benjamin. Councillor Larder.
No, I just recommend the 3.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Put the motion. All in favour? Oh, Councillor Ham, you wanted to say something.
I might refer it to the next point. Thank you.
Let's put the motion. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.2, which relates back to that one. Draft payment of expenses and provision of facilities for Mayor and Councillors policy for adoption. Councillor Ham's moving it. Second to Councillor Larder. Councillor Ham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much to the people who put this policy together and for taking consideration of points that I've put in. I believe the policy is much improved, but something I suggested I want to unsuggest if possible. And the reason that is that previous policy, that previous motion, which was to pay for my transport to go to the Arbor Festival. And I am going to have a slight diversion there. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but I do want to publicly say how brilliant the Arbor Festival was. And I think everyone would agree that it's just been the most amazing thing for the district. And anyone who was fortunate enough to be at the Woodlands Festival, to be at the Sugar Pie Memorial, and to be at Fanny Lumsden's concert, like, would be just blown away with the professionalism, the enthusiasm. I mean, this all happened on our patch, and it's just, I presume we're writing a letter of gratitude to the organisers, but it was really outstanding.
Given that I agree with you, I'll allow that.
Thank you. However, my attending the Sugar Pine Memorial is taking 4 heavy pages of the council reports, and this could be stopped in the policy by just making sure that when a councillor attends events sponsored by council, that this can be ratified by the CEO and the mayor rather than having to be passed right through all the council, because at the end of the year there's an annual review anyhow that publicly shows where, you know, what reimbursements were for and what. So it does seem duplicating and really does seem a lot of work on council for something that's happening anyhow. So Councillor
Ham, would you be happy if under that submission summary page 2 section, adjacent to ECM ID 3084910, after Mayor and CEO, it says to be ratified at the next council meeting, put a line through to be ratified at the next council meeting?
Yep, I'd like that.
Okay.
And also in official business, that official business also includes events sponsored by council. So that means if I want to go to the Rosewood Roundup, which I like to go to every year, I'm on no committee, nothing for it. They like me to go because I'm a councillor. I'd like to know that I can go as a councillor to that event.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, given discussions the staff have had with Councillor Ham, we have drafted an alternative resolution. I can share that on the screen if you wish.
Please do.
Yes.
You see that okay? So we've added 4, 5 and 6 there, highlighted in red. Councillor Ham, does that capture your request?
Yeah, thank you very much for understanding. Yes.
Thank you. Are the councillors happy with that? Okay. Councillor Smith.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I also attended that event. In fact, I took part in that event at the request, which I took to be part of my council responsibilities. and therefore didn't run it past you or the CEO. And I wasn't aware that there was any controversy about that, or that Councillor Ham had run into trouble about, or in difficulty about that. And I understood that to be a council event.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. No, there's no trouble at all. It's just ticking boxes. And I did hear that you were the headline act and did a wonderful job. So congratulations on your part there. No, this is just paperwork, basically. So with those changes, councillors, are there any other comments? With those changes, I'll put those new motions.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, just need to seek clarification from the mover and the seconder that they accept those changes.
Yeah.
Happy? Okay, yep, right up. Put the motion. All in favour? That's unanimous again. Thank you. Adoption of Council Committee's policy and Council Committee's operation manual. Riveting stuff. Do we have a mover? Councillor Smith, Councillor Larder. Thank you.
Yes, considering that we have worked on that quite consistently and exhaustively, I think that's a very good result, and I recommend this policy.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Nothing further? All in favour? Unanimous again. Thank you. Half-yearly operational plan, action and project update. Councillor Ham. Councillor Larder. Councillor Ham.
Will you be able to go into committee with this, Mr. Mayor?
If you're moving that way.
I'd like to move that way.
You're moving that way. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Larder, thank you. Do I have everybody in agreement? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the staff that put this document together. It's just great to see what is happening. I'd like to comment on a few things, and I'm sorry, I've got a paper copy, but I'm referring to page 89, paper copy, which is point number in the advocacy plan progress number 11, and the rail trail master plan, establishing a walking and cycle master plan for the SVC region for the development of existing and proposed trails in New South Wales. There's a tick as funding secured, and I think that is in the wrong place because it's successful grant application for Talbingo Trail Rail Mail Master Plan business case. That should be somewhat the next one down, because we have certainly not got the master plan for trails. And I know there's people in Batlow, in Tumbarumba, in Talbingo and Tumut, all of us and Long, all of us waiting to do the big master plan. So if that could be just unticked, because that's certainly not the case.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, so councillors, that's on page 8 of 52 electronically of that attachment. And Councillor Ham, yes, I agree, we have got the money for the Talbingo component, but not for the regional component, so we will make that amendment.
Fantastic. And then, sorry, if it's okay with you, Mr. Mayor, I've got about 4 or 5 points.
Keep going.
On page 96 about Snowview, just a half yearly, it's in progress. It's said that it's 75% completed, but when I was looking the other day, I really couldn't see any action there at all. And my understanding that it has to be completed by July. Just if we could have an update on, is that going to be completed in time, and what should we be expecting to see in the next month or two?
Mr. Holton.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. The situation we are at the moment, the development approval application has been lodged with council. I've had meetings with our project manager, and we are in the throes of developing a project scope for a design and construct project. We will, our intention is to, as soon as that scope has been finalised, we will go to market looking for to procure a contractor to undertake that design and construct project, anticipating that we would award a contract by the end of this financial year, with a view to the design work, the detailed design work, pre-construction design work to be undertaken during the winter months, and I guess the first sod turned in the spring. That's about as fast as we can get this project.
Okay, so 2 points there. It really isn't 75%. Sorry, I'm just looking at colours, but it really is nowhere near 75% completed. And so if that's the case, so we're looking at spring getting it done. Are people able to buy off the plan now, or you've got to have the design done? I suppose.
So I'd be reluctant to put any blocks on the market in advance of the DA being approved. But at the same time, I don't see there being any constraint in terms of running a procurement at the same time as the DA assessment for a detailed design and construct. So we do have fairly clear plans on that were developed for stage 3 through, they were developed in the past. They're not detailed design plans to the extent where engineering details and things like that are worked out, but there are site plans that are quite clear. I don't believe we can at this stage. It would be advisable to actually put them on the market until we have the DA finalised.
So that could be in the next month or so.
Well, it's with us, and we are progressing it. Our contractor is assessing that DA at the moment.
Mr. Mayor, if I just point of clarification, the 75% indicates that 75% of our operational plan projects are actually in the progress stage, not that those items are 75% progressed.
I beg your pardon. Okay, thank you. Okay, page 101.1.4.2. Facilitate and deliver a program of council-led cultural development. Point 1. So the activation team is doing an amazing job with Eastern Riverina Arts and everything. However, there's a reference here to Hello Snowy Valleys. I really don't know what that's about. And also, after the consultation meetings with Winter Bites, there seems to be some confusion about what it actually means and how it is going to help our communities.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can take that question. Hello Snowy Valleys is it's a fantastic arts and cultural initiative that will occur around the same time as the Winter Bites Festival. It involves the residency of internationally profiled playwright Hanny Rayson and Radio National's arts broadcaster Michael Cathcart. They'll be in residence in Snowy Valleys for 10 weeks from June through to August, and they'll be, I guess, eliciting stories from local characters and local people, and then curating 20 of those stories into a theatre piece to be presented in Batlow in August. And Council has funded that project through some of the bushfire funding that came through, as well as through the place activation team. So it's very much in line with the operational plan action in terms of developing partnerships, encouraging arts and cultural activities. And this is a really great example of local arts and culture, and it will utilise the Literary Institute to its fullest degree, and all of the lighting and sound infrastructure that's been put in there.
Thank you.
Winter Bites?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
And could we have some clarification exactly what Winter Bites is and how that is? I mean, what is it?
Yeah, so Winter Bites is a festival that has been developed, and it's been funded through Austrade as an economic recovery initiative in response to the bushfires. It involves the towns of Adelong, Batlow and Tumbarumba and seeks to showcase the produce and the commodities that we produce in those three different areas. And I guess the aim is to promote Snowy Valleys in general as a winter destination as much as a summer, autumn and spring destination. And at this stage, the actual events are under planning, and we have employed a festival director or coordinator to put together the program, and that person has been undertaking various consultations with the business community in particular in each of those locations in an effort to put together an exciting program. It is anticipated, and one of the things that got us over the line with the funding, and it was significant funding, was we would like to see this event continue throughout, ongoing. And not necessarily limited to those three locations, but seeing it expand or move around as in different years. So this is a first try. We have been fortunate enough to get significant funding to give it a red hot go, and it's still a work in progress, and there will be more and more come out about this as time goes on.
Thank you, Mr. Holton. There was some suggestion that perhaps we should have been applying for other projects other than a Winter Bites Festival. But was that funding available for other projects?
So the story around the funding was quite interesting. We initially submitted for a large scale event in one location with a concert and so forth. We were told that the amount of money that we were looking for wasn't. They weren't going to fund it to that extent, and would we rejig our application? So the place activation team did a complete review of what they had proposed and came up with the concept of Winter Bites and locating it in those three areas. The Austrade was they were so enamoured with what was proposed, they actually provided more funding than was originally applied for in the first instance. So we got a very strong endorsement from Austrade around the proposal that was put forward. And on that basis, I guess, we've proceeded to attempt, or proceeded with the process of delivering what they funded.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Wright.
I just wanted to ask if about the bushfire preparedness for next year, if you like. One of the big things we keep talking about is communication and lack of communication in some of our more outlying areas of trouble. I wonder if this is an opportunity for us to ask about that and see where we're going with that.
It's out on a bit of a limb, but I guess we can. It can be linked in with major projects and advocacy projects. Hand over to the CEO.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have uploaded the portal on our website where there's a whole lot of disaster information available to the community there. We, in the case of fires, we aren't the lead agency. The RFS is the lead agency, and they control the communications. We are doing what we need to do for council responsibility, and we are looking at lands where council is responsible for managing those lands. Some of those lands we do need to receive Crown Lands permission and advice, and they have their own mechanisms around what we can and can't do on lands that are actually owned by the Crown. We make an approach for that, but they make the decision about what we can do. We've got our information available as we get through. But really, the lead agency is RFS, and we don't want to create any confusion with council issuing any particular instructions, because that's not our expertise. That is RFS's expertise, and they are very good at their job, and they're very good at communicating. So most of that communication comes out through them. We do have the local emergency management committee, which does meet and does discuss various issues and progress matters between government departments, and that is still operating. And there's a subgroup to that that operates around the Snowy 2 as well.
I might point out also that as a council, we continue to lobby for black spot programs for upgrade of telecommunications. So we're continuing to do that as well.
And we'll talk about having some community meetings so that we can talk to our community and keep them informed of what's going on, and maybe talk about, that it's really RFS's department, which will be stepping on their toes. But is there any more news on that at all, do you think? Or?
Thanks, Councillor Wright. We can only just hear you, so you might just need to speak closer to your microphone when you're talking. But RFS have offered to run some events in the local community that advise the community about what their processes are and what's happening. I don't have an update on where that's at, but I will follow that up.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Pritchard.
Just about communications, Mr. Mayor. A lot of the agencies are doing a lot of work, but the big hole in communications, as far as I'm concerned, is the urgency when there's a major event on. Not everyone has the internet. Not everyone has a mobile telephone. And we need to have some immediate alarm system to alert the communities that they should look, that there is a major event, bushfires or floods or whatever. I mean, during the Second World War, they used sirens. Well, I can't see why we can't have a siren system set up, or even run by low-flying aircraft around the whole area, so people that don't have normal communication access are alerted. Then it's up to them to go and find out what's going on. But there are people who get no communication whatsoever.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. I do note that Sounds of the Mountains have been funded. I think also Radio Upper Murray, some of the funds have gone there for our local radio to be enhanced during times of, well, enhanced at all times, but so that they can get the word out during times of crisis and emergency. I also note that, for example, in Adelong, the siren goes off when there's a fire or there's something going on. So it's not all is lost.
Not everyone listens to the radio and or watches TV, and there are a lot of people who don't have any communications whatsoever, and they need to get out when the fire's nearby, up the Buganda, for example. And they do it during wartime. I can't see any reason why an aircraft can't just fly around the area with a siren on, so that people can be warned. They can go to the neighbour and find out what's happening. But some people really don't get immediate.
We can give that as an option to the emergency team.
May also just some of those comments. The document that we're talking about on electronic page 5. We've actually got the progress that we made on our advocacy projects there, and we were successful in securing just over $19 million for 6 of the 14 advocacy projects. And in Q1 and Q2 of this financial year, we've lodged for a further $42 million worth of projects. There's a significant amount of work progressing in there, but also in our operational plan, we have a number of specific projects around bushfire recovery, and those are well in progress, as we've seen in respect to the roadside cleanup. That is a multi-million-dollar project, and the community lobbied hard for that. We advocated to make sure that that was a funded project from the state, and the state have done that, and we've made great progress in our area. So lots of good things happening around protecting our communities.
Thank you.
But just to reinforce it, there are people who don't get any warning whatsoever if they're in an isolated place, and the only way they can be addressed is by aircraft or police or whatever going around with sirens in all the area. Anyway, that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Any other Councillor Cross? I can see your hand up there.
I'd just like to go back to the operational plan and get an update on what's happening with FOGO one question on what's happening with FOGO. The other question around the waste app, do we have any idea, any indication of how many people have taken it up so far?
Thank you, Councillor Cross. For listeners, Food Organics, Garden Organics is the acronym. CEO?
I'll hand this one on to Executive Director of Infrastructure, Hines.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The app's going well from what I hear. Over 1,000 people have participated in the app, and they have been the vouchers have been used at the landfills, which is great. In regard to FOGO, yes, FOGO's going to be a multi-year project. Obviously, very, very deep into the planning phase at the moment. Detailed designs, sorting out contracts and all that sort of stuff. Looking at rolling out the bins this financial year, and then the processing facility will follow.
Thank you. Anything further?
I'd just like to compliment the staff on the way they put together the operational plan. It's really clear. I really like the colour coding. It makes it so easy to read. I think they've done a fantastic job.
Thank you. CEO, can you pass on those thanks?
Certainly will. Thank you very much, councillors.
Do we have a mover to go out of? Is that what you're moving, Councillor Ham? That we go out of?
I'm afraid not, Mr. Mayor.
You're afraid not?
Is there anything happening with the Country University Centre?
It hasn't raised its head for a while, and there haven't been anyone who's been terribly. I'm very enthusiastic about it, but it just hasn't. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Happy to move out.
Seconder. Councillor Cross, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you, which takes us to 10.4. We've got a move and a seconder for that, didn't we? Yes.
We did. Councillor Ham.
Anything further on that? Put the motion, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. New Council Implementation Fund, NCIF, and Stronger Communities, SCF. There are a few of these, Stronger Communities Fund and Stronger Country Communities Fund, but these are NCIF and SCF. Mover. Councillor Larder. Councillor Benjamin. Councillor Larder. Mute, Councillor Larder. Nothing to say?
Nothing further.
Okay. Nothing else? Put the motion, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. I'd just like to pass on congratulations to the council crews and also the contractors who are working on all these projects. It's certainly been great to see them all, and and I'm just so impressed with some of them. They're fantastic. 10.6 governance and finance reports. Councillor Ham. Councillor Cross. Councillor Ham.
Thank you to the CFO for presenting this so well. I've got two questions. One is I am actually going to look at the statement of investments for January and December together in the IT management and support software, just because it's looking like up to about, I think it's around $360,000 is being spent in the IT software management area. And I know that we've all gone over to Outlook, which I personally appreciate. It's great. However, that just seems like an awful lot of money. Is this an ongoing expense? Is this just a one-off? How was it funded? If the CFO could explain that, would be great.
Thank you, Councillor Ham. CFO?
Councillor Ham, through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a service that we outsourced, and it has a corresponding savings in the wages and materials budget. So it's not going over budget, it's just a different type of procuring it. I can add that we also had some NCIF projects in these payments. We had finalised the network connectivity, the installation of the hardware, cabling, phone systems, and the installation of the always-on VPN software, and then also the transfer to Office 365 over the Christmas period. Some security remediation work is also being undertaken by the same contractor.
It's a large expense, isn't it? And so this is 2 months in a row that's been quite large. Now that it's all set up, how much would we be expecting in this area? And ballpark.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I am going to take this one on notice. There is a commercial confidence contract obviously in place.
Okay. And while I've got you, CFO, you've made a statement up here, cash investments rates continue to fall due to uncertain economic environment and long-term outlook. So I'd just like to ask you how COVID is impacting financially on the council area. And the investment rates are continuing to fall. Do you have a forecast of how you're seeing this going forward?
Thank you, councillors. Through you, Mr. Mayor. We have a number of impacts, albeit not very large ones. We have some reduction in fee income because we couldn't hire out halls, parks, etc. for a while. On the other hand, we have received increased funding due to COVID. There is a number of funding streams that are now available that weren't available before. And it's mainly to do with kickstarting the economy. But it definitely had a negative impact on the general economy. And once the general economy gets impacted, then investment rates are going down. So at the moment, we're starting to attract decent interest rates on our investments, but we also had a very good rate on a loan that we took out. So it all balances out in the end. It will impact our income by the end of the year, but we did budget very, very conservatively because we did expect this to happen.
Thank you.
Councillor Cross.
I'd like to highlight the fact that we spend $139,000 on waste disposal to Bald Hill. That would be a really good point to bring out when we start doing some educational work around FOGO and how the community can get on board with reducing that. But my question is, does all of Snowy Valley's council waste go that's not recyclable? Does all of that go to Bald Hill?
Thank you, Councillor Cross. I'll direct that to the Executive Director of Infrastructure, Mr. Court. On mute, Mr. Court.
Short answer to that, yes. So we don't have any landfills, any active landfills in our region. So everything that needs to go to landfill goes to Bald Hill, which is your non-recyclable material.
And what is the life expectancy of Bald Hill?
Yeah, a bit difficult. It is a privately run landfill, but as a council, we're a partner in that we have airspace that's made available to us. From what I understand, there's no threat on the airspace available at Bald Hill. It's ongoing and medium to long term. But as you've stated earlier, we'd very much prefer to maximise recycling and very much minimise what goes to Bald Hill. And part of rolling out the FOGO will hopefully assist with that.
And when we do roll out FOGO, is there the capacity to be able to capture how much waste is reduced by the introduction of FOGO, so that we've got a ballpark figure, baseline figure now? Can we work out how much is saved to landfill through that FOGO program?
Yes, most definitely. Everything that goes to Bald Hill goes through a weighbridge and is invoiced. So yes, we'll very clearly see the difference. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cross. Thank you, Mr. Course. Anything further? Councillors put the motion. All in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Statement of investments, December 2020. Councillor Larder. Councillor Cross. Councillor Larder.
I'm just happy to move them.
Thank you. Councillor Cross, you've got a question?
Yes.
Statement?
The energy costs. I'm just curious whether it's too soon, because it's $165,000. Is it too soon to be able to look at how LED lights in our towns is impacting on our cost? Is that able to be measured yet?
Mr. Corsh?
Not quite yet, but very soon, in that the installation of the LEDs is well underway. Once that's completed, we should see immediate reductions in our energy bills.
And you will be able to track that for us?
Yes. So we get billed by the energy, so we should see that, and yeah, happy to share that information with councillors, of course.
So we're judging this basically just on a monetary figure. What about, do we have any metrics on consumption of energy units?
For street lighting, or do you mean like across the board?
Just on a whole, you know, like if we're looking at trying to reduce some of our consumption and be, you know, a little bit greener and produce solar PV and all that sort of energy things that, you know, most communities are doing. Have we got any sort of handle on that?
I suppose, yeah, any new works or anything we do, any new buildings, we're obviously always looking at introducing solar and reducing energy consumption as part of the design processes. I don't suppose we probably don't measure that directly, right. But we do make sure that we do incorporate energy efficient devices and strategies in everything we do.
And at the end of the day, that should reduce the cost.
Yeah, definitely. But it's something, you know, if we're talking new builds, we don't have a comparison to what it would have been, you know, if it hadn't been included, if that makes sense. Yeah,
certainly does.
But obviously, you know, I mean, the stuff we've done with the pools, maximising solar at all our swimming pools, and all our buildings where we can. Sure.
Thank you. Anything further on that? I'll put the motion. All in favour? It's unanimous again. Thank you. Financial report, December 2020. Councillor Ham, Councillor Cross.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. If I could just first of all just point out a fairly major typo in the graph there, in the actual, in the operating results, where it is showing negative, it should show positive and vice versa, which actually brings good news rather than bad news in the fact that our operating result is $4.8 million up and 154% variance, which I'd like to congratulate the CFO and would like her to continue in that way if that's possible. Fortunately, I don't think it is. So if that could just be minuted, that operating result line is incorrect. Then I'd like to discuss income above budget, including the Tumbarumba Caravan Park up 138,000, Rough Corners, this is up above budget. Rough Corner up 35,000 and Commercial Works up 360,000. 560. I mean, yep. Yeah, I presume Commercial Works is because of bushfire recovery. Caravan Park probably the same, and yeah, maybe the CFO might tell us why why did we budget so conservatively? That certainly makes us feel good now.
Thank you, Councillor Ham. I'll hand over to the CFO.
Thank you, Councillor Ham. Through you, Mr. Mayor. We didn't have baseline figures for the caravan park, and we also didn't expect it to be such a good year for the caravan park. We have basically the entire caravan park booked out for the entire year. With Ross Corner, there was uncertainty on how we would be running Ross Corner, whether we would continue to run it ourselves with locum doctors or whether somebody would take over. And also, it's very hard to predict how much income comes through it. We are still currently running it ourselves. And please be aware that just because the income is up doesn't mean we're making a higher profit. The expenditures are also up.
Thank you.
And then commercial works being up that high? That is bushfire, I presume?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe it is mainly bushfire related, but we also have had some other additional funding streams come in, and I'll hand that over to Director of Infrastructure.
Mr. Court.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, exactly as the CFO alluded to, a good part of it's due to additional works, post fireworks. Also, we have been fortunate in picking up some additional commercial works, and it is a bit of a it's difficult to forecast depending on what happens, but we are progressing very well with commercial works at this point in time.
Thank you. Anything further? Put the motion. All in favour? All in favour? Thank you. Carried. Unanimous. Quarterly budget review. Councillor Lada. Councillor Ham. Councillor Lada. Nothing. Anyone else? Councillor Ham.
Maybe if I could just ask the CEO or the CFO, is this good result just a bushfire bubble?
Thank you, Councillor Ham. CEO.
CFO. I'll leave that
CFO.
to the CFO. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Ham. Through you, Mr. Chair. It is to a degree a little bit of a bushfire bubble. It's also a COVID bubble, but we are also making great inroads in savings and efficiencies across the organisation, which has an effect as well. I draw your attention to the fact that our capital works budget is getting postponed on a number of fronts, mainly due to additional projects, but also due to the weather conditions that we had recently, and continuing disaster recovery works.
Thank you.
So with that, I'm just a little bit, I mean, it looks great, and it's, you know, good to see that financially we're going okay at this stage. It just worries me a bit that we are looking at a long-term financial budget, and have we budgeted too conservatively? Because, you know, is this the pattern we're going to see year after year? But then we're also budgeting on, you know, we're still not looking until we have you know, feel comfortably financially till 10 years down the track. So it just makes me ask, are we just too conservative in our budgeting?
Through you, Mr.
Yes,
I'll take this one. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, budgeting is always a little bit conservative because, especially on the expenditure side, you have variances that you need to explain upfront. But we are still think that we will make a loss at the end of this year. So it's not like we're doing better, but we're not doing that fantastically if we're still making losses. And it is,
and that's a loss after
that's an operational loss before capital items.
Yeah, okay.
And I understand your concern, and yes, we will take that into account for the future budget round.
Thank you, CFO. but at the same time, we can't budget for natural disasters and pandemics as well. Councillor Pritchard.
Yeah, I was just going to raise that point myself. People think that this COVID virus is over. I don't think it started yet. It certainly won't. It could have impacts on us for longer than and more significant impacts than we can see ahead of us. Look at the rest of the world; they're in a shambles, and we're hanging in there at the moment. But the vaccine advice is confusing. I think we need to on the conservative side for everything for the time being.
Yeah, and fortunately, most of our organisations around and businesses have been lucky with the federal government's JobKeeper and the like. Of course, we weren't eligible for that as a council.
Yeah.
Handing on any further, councillors? Okay, let's put this 10.9. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. 10.10, additional ordinary meeting for the review of the draft operational plan and budget. New meeting and a new time. Councillor Ham, are you moving that? Thank you. I can barely see your grin from here. Councillor Cross, you're seconding. Councillor Ham, would you like to speak to this?
Oh, I will, Mr. Mayor. I'm just delighted that we're showing that we can be flexible in our meeting times. I'm aware that it's an election year. I'm aware that there's some people who may be listening today who are just dying to become on council or at least stand for election. And just so that you know that we do have some flexibility. I also think it's a good trial for us as a council to do to see how much this will cost and the impact it does make on staffing and on cost. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hammond. I'm delighted that you're delighted, and I'm also aware that it's an election year. Any other councillors? No? Okay, let's put the motion. All in favour?
Mr. Mayor, can I just clarify who was the seconder for that? Sorry.
Councillor Cross.
Councillor Cross, thank you.
All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Road naming, Golf Links Estate subdivision. Councillor Benjamin. Councillor Lata. Any conversation on this one?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's great to see this subdivision actually opened in the Snowy Valleys, and yeah, keen to see what happens in the long run.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Benjamin. Put the motion. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Thanks to everyone involved in that. It's good. Drinking water management system annual reports for 2018 and 19. 3 recommendations. Councillor Smith. Councillor Cross. Councillor Smith, would you like to...
Yes, look, it's good to see the reports are very, very good, but it might be worth mentioning for people in Tumbarumba who are noting an odour and a taste in the water and might be a little bit, excuse me, concerned about the quality of the water, that the water has been very, very thoroughly tested and that it is a 100% fit to drink, and that there are possibly other reasons for the odour and for the taste. Perhaps if the appropriate director could give some explanation for that, it would be helpful.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Executive Director of Infrastructure. Mute. Still on mute.
Sorry, apologies. Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor Smith. Yeah, we have had issues with algae in the supply dam that feeds into the treatment plant at Tumbarumba. Very much as you've highlighted, not an issue as far as water quality goes, is creating some odour, which then affects the taste. We're working through that the best we can. It's a natural occurring thing. something we haven't experienced before in that system. But please, but be advised, there's no issue with the quality of the water from a drinking perspective.
Thank you. Anything else, councillors? Councillor Cross?
I'd like to say how our community expects to have good quality water, and how good it is to have external bodies overseeing it and actually auditing the quality of our water. It's really great to see that oversight from an external body. And I'd like to compliment the fact that our water is absolutely beautiful. It's so soft and so lovely.
Thank you. That means a lot from coming from you.
Yeah.
Thank you, councillors. If you can excuse me for a moment, I have to get a cord because my battery is low. If we can just, council, I might hand over to, actually, I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's carried. And while I grab that, I might ask the Deputy Mayor to do the next report, please. Thank you.
Sorry. It's right your topic, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks.
But you have to get off mute.
Is he online?
Everyone hear me?
Yep.
All right, we have a mover in a second. Councillor Wright. Councillor Ham?
Yeah.
Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor Wright?
Yeah, I think it's great to name after Ivan Lyons, who's a tremendous asset to our community over a lot of years. And I think I'm proud to be able to walk along it. I think it's going to be great. Thanks very much.
Skip one over, Councillor Wright. We're back on item 11.3, Crown Road Reserve Chim at Aerodrome.
I was on 11.4, sorry.
Yeah, you're ahead of us.
So if I could speak to it and just ask, maybe the Deputy Mayor probably knows it better than anyone, if I could ask the Deputy Mayor what he thinks about this idea.
Well, you probably wanting to... yeah, look, I think it's a good idea. It's certainly, you know, something that we should be aspiring to, and I think it's a great idea. Councillor Pritchard?
Yeah, just have to unmute. Would you mind telling us where we stand with the extension of the airport and the runway and upgrading of the airport?
If I may, Councillor Pritchard, that we're just putting our project plan together for that one at the moment, and just working through that so we can come back to councillors and advise them a little more on that project as we advance. There is some commercial issues that we need to be conscious of in discussing that in a public forum.
Just that the bushfire season will be upon us shortly.
So there's two separate projects, if I may, through
different to this year.
So there's one project that that we're underway with about sealing the taxiways for RFS, and then there's the larger project. If you want, Mr. Korsh could give us an update on the sealing of the taxiways project, which was the first project.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. We've been liaising very closely with the RFS. They've asked us to just hold back on the actual physical work on site. They'd prefer that we wait till the end of the fire season. So we've programmed the works. Once they're comfortable that they're clear of the fire season, we'll get in and do that work. And it's intended it'll be ready for the next fire season. Just didn't want to start that work now and impede their response if there is an incident.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, the map that we've got, the overview that we've got is really very unclear as to where that, what is actually being proposed. So it's very hard to make a decision about it.
Ask the director responsible to.
Yep, please. Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, the road is shown in that purpley colour going across the runway. That's the section that we're referring to in the report. So that's currently dedicated as what we refer to as a paper road for the Crown, and we need to get that transferred over into council ownership. In that it is very much part of the aerodrome.
So Heinz, the scale there has freehold land as in brown, but in actual fact it should be white because it's SVC land, isn't it?
Correct. Yes. Apologies for that. Yep. Okay. Yeah. That's
where we're all getting lost. Okay.
Yep. And the purple strip is the road going through the aerodrome. Yep.
Well, we better move the motion then, if that's the case. Yes.
All right. You happy to put to a vote? All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously.
Thank you, Councillor Lada. Fully charged now, I think. Well done. Okay, I'll do the Tumbarumba Cemetery. Naming of the internal walkway. We've got 4 recommendations there. Mover, Councillor Wright, seconder, Councillor Cross, Councillor Ham, sorry. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Oh, all in favour? It's carried. Councillor Cross?
Yes, sorry. I thought Councillor Ross wanted to say something.
Who wants, someone wanted to say something? Did I miss someone?
Councillor Wright wanted to say something.
Councillor Wright, sorry.
Too late, doesn't matter. I'm just supporting it, that's all.
Okay, great. Thank you.
He'd already detailed it in the last one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but I have to agree with Councillor Wright that anyone who knew Ivan Lyons and the impact he's had on Tumbarumba District, it's very worthy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Rescindment of policies infrastructure. 1 and 2, and 2 goes A to H. Councillor Ham, Councillor Cross.
I think they should be rescinded as recommended.
Thank you. All in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Companion animals management policy for adoption. 3 recommendations. Councillor Ham, Councillor Smith.
I'm happy for Councillor Smith to speak on this.
Councillor Smith.
Again, it's one that we have debated previously, and we all agree that there needs to be proper control of the companion animals, and this is going to deliver that. So we commend it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Minutes of the local traffic committee meeting. Moving that, Councillor Wright. Thank you. Councillor Lada. Anything arising out of those? Any comments? Yeah, Councillor Cross.
I just wanted to highlight 4.3 about parking lines and perhaps item 4.3, parking lines along Elm Drive. Could we take back to the committee that it should also include Elm Drive down by the Riverside Cafe where the island is, because there's a lot of confusion about where you can park and how you can park down in that area.
I'm sure Councillor Wright can take that to the next meeting. and probably bring it up in business arising from these minutes.
Thank you.
Councillor Pritchard.
Mr. Mayor, can I inquire if there's any progress regarding the crossing from near the skateboard park in Tumut in Fitzroy Street? That's been a disaster along there for some years, and it's very dangerous with the increase in traffic through the town and the increased activity at the skateboard park.
Okay, thank you. I do note that it's dropped by 10 kilometres an hour. Yes. But Director of Infrastructure, do you have any information there on traffic calming through that area or a warning?
Well, it's a pedestrian crossing that we're lacking, a pedestrian footpath.
Refuge or?
Yeah. Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, any application for a crossing would have to be through Transport for New South Wales. And I think my understanding is we were looking at the pedestrian traffic and pathways and all that as part of that overall strategy, being our pathway strategy. So I would think it should be picked up through that. Otherwise, we could, again, as you've alluded to previously, we could raise it through the traffic committee as general business.
It's been on the agenda for years, and it needs urgent attention, in my opinion.
Thank you. It's certainly an area that's utilised a lot by the young people along there. Anything further from those minutes? I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's unanimous as well. Battlo Development League, 4th of November 2020. Councillor Smith. Councillor Larder. Councillor Smith.
Yes, I'd like to comment on the fact that there has been a lot of increase in community interest in Battlo, and this is reflected in a number of new attendees at the BDL meetings, which is very gratifying to see. A lot of people have become involved in furthering the interests of Battlo, particularly post bushfire, and I think it has increased a lot of activity, and there are a number of different projects and things that were brought to the attention of the BDL that are happening around the place, and I think that Battlo is on the up and up after a very disastrous bushfire period and the losses that were suffered there. Certainly there has been a lot of government support and interest from various politicians and so forth in the area, and that is well worth noting that there is a real increase in community activity and community interest in the Battlo Development League and its work there.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any further? Councillor Ham.
Can I just ask Councillor Smith and maybe the Paul Holton as well, who lives in Battlo. I know that the RMS will not approve the crossing on Battlo Road. I presume that's outside the IGA there. And I stopped there this morning, and thank you, Lisa, for a lovely coffee. But I have to agree with it. It's just so congested as it is, and if you had a crossing there, you'd have no room left to park at all at the supermarket. I'd just like some opinion on that. It just seems like the wrong place to have the crossing.
If I may, through you, Mr. Mayor, just comment on that. The actual discussion that was held at the Battlo Development League was more of the lines that the crossing would not be approved in time to be funded through the prior to the closure or prior to the date that was required to be finished in respect of the grants program that it was to be funded under. I think efforts are still being put in to identify an appropriate site for a crossing to address the issues that were raised during community consultation. But this is outside of that funding program. So it was determined to reallocate the money while we could to another project, in which case the next priority was the toilets there at the Liberty Institute.
Yeah, and they definitely need to be redone.
Thank you. Anything
If
further?
I add the comment, Mr. Mayor, that I do believe that a crossing is needed very much in the future when we can get to that point with RFS to get a crossing done there, because of the elderly people that cross the road and because of the heavy traffic and heavy log trucks and so forth that come down there. I think it is important at some stage a crossing is installed there.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Okay, put the motion. This is for the Development League, 12.3. All in favour? It's carried, unanimous. Takes us to the next, 12.2 that was, now 12.3. Councillor Smith.
Yes, similarly, we just accept that one.
Councillor Ham, seconder. Any comment? Put the motion. All in favour? Unanimous again. Takes us to Glenroy Heritage Reserve Committee. Councillor Ham, Councillor Lata.
Just like to thank Councillor Schmidt for attending this for me. They're a great group of people to live with, not to live with, to work with. And I note there are some concerns that has been spoken to with Councillor Wright. I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind bringing those up, Councillor Wright, about the concerns at Glenroy Heritage.
Councillor Wright.
Yeah, I spoke to one of the committee members the other day, and she was concerned. They want to go their own way, rather than stay with the reserve committee. That's a museum committee. But I think it's all in hand at the present moment. That Shelley said that they're working on it, and you know, I've offered Councillor Ham and myself to help facilitate that in any way we can and help those people just discuss it and make sure that they're all comfortable. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, put the motion. All in favour? That's unanimous again. Thank you. Another one, 1st of November. Mover, Councillor Lada, Councillor Wright. Anything further on this one? Councillor Pritchard.
Can I ask if the echidna is still in residence under the hut there?
I'm sure it is, Councillor.
It is.
It is, yep. It's a wildlife sanctuary as well. That's great. Can I put the motion? All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Councillors, that concludes the ordinary meeting, and I thank you for your assistance there. This takes us to confidential. The Local Government Act provides that Council may close to the public that part of the meeting that deals with matters of a confidential nature. Section 10.2 lists such matters. The grounds on which a meeting is closed to the public must be specified in the decision to close the meeting and recorded in the minutes of the meeting. The recommendation that we have before us, councillors, is that Council move into confidential to consider the matters listed in the confidential section of the agenda in accordance with Section 10.2 of the Local Government Act 1993 for the reasons specified. 13.1, Goobandra Road Slopes Stabilisation Tender. It is confidential under the Local Government Act Section 10A2, D1 and D2 as it relates to commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it, and information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a competitor of the Council, and Council considers that that discussion of the matter in an open meeting would be, on balance, contrary to the public interest. Do I have a mover to move into confidential? Councillor Larder, Councillor Wright. All in favour? That's carried unanimously.